Call the February 12th, 2025 Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting to order. If you're able, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May we have the roll call, please?
Chair Halstead?
Here.
Commissioner Petty?
Here.
Commissioner Fikes?
Here.
Commissioner Ersley?
Here.
Commissioner Kraus is absent. Commissioner Woodard?
Here.
And Vice Chair Tweed is absent. You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda as presented? Yes.
I would like to make a motion to approve the agenda and the consent agenda as stated, please.
Thank you. May we have a second?
Second.
Second. Will the clerk please read the consent agenda items into the record?
You have approval of minutes, regular meeting of January 22nd, 2025, and new business action approval requesting excused absence for the January 22nd, 2025 regular meeting from Commissioner Woodard, and that is your consent agenda.
Thank you very much. Is there any public comments on any of the consent agenda items read by the clerk? No one online? Okay. Are there any revisions to the agenda? Any objections or approving the agenda and consent agenda? Hearing no objections, the agenda and consent agenda are approved. All right, so we are on scheduled public comment. We have Doug Clegg, owner of Aspen Creek. Is he available? Oh.
Am I good? I'm here at Kevin's request, actually. My name's Douglas Clegg. I am the owner of Aspen Creek, which is a new assisted living facility that we're adding a memory care component to at 701 Forest. Formerly owned by Clint Hall, it was called Cherry's Place or Carissa's Place. I've heard it pronounced 5 or 6 different ways, but basically it was his wife, and we bought it a few years ago. So the city attorney called me, I'm going to say about a month, 6 weeks ago, and said that there were some of the neighbors that were concerned about the traffic. And I didn't get a lot of details, but that basically they had showed up at a public hearing or a public event and expressed concerns or invited to come here. And I guess I asked the question to Scott, why hasn't anybody called me? Because our company, I checked with our executive director, our director of nursing, our activities director, my vice president for the state, which is Renee Bryant. No phone calls from any of the neighbors coming directly to us to ask what's happening and what's the traffic count. And I think in the course of that conversation, I tried to share with them that we have a conditional use permit for access on Ponderosa that is exclusively for emergency, delivery, and trash removal, which we're fully on board with. But I also let them know that we've been working with the building official and your fire marshal, and there's a little different experience when you build something like that. We're under construction, and the ingress and egress, not only for our seniors, but for our staff and visitors on that site right now is very complicated. I mean, we have cranes, concrete trucks, delivery of sheetrock and building materials pretty much every day. And in relationship with that, I tried to express my concerns about the difference between what happens during construction and what is supposed to happen post-construction. So we're close. We're done with our sheetrock. We start painting in a week. Our furniture will go in May, and we hope you guys will all come to our open house on May 2nd. Que bueno. Little Tequila Tuesday. Whatever that ends up being. It's actually on a Friday. But I'm going to be honest with you and tell you that our number one concern right now is not a few additional cars on Ponderosa. My number one concern is the life and safety of the seniors and being in compliance with our fire marshal and making sure that we have excellent access and excellent ingress and egress, not only for our seniors, but for our staff. We have every intention of never using Ponderosa, but it is a public right-of-way, and I am not in an authoritative position to police use. That's for the police. So if the city has a position on how you can have me as a business owner do that, I'm open book. We will go out there with anything you want and say, don't drive on this street, nor can I control the weather, nor can I control the snow removal and the site conditions that we're all going to be imposed by. Get it, light winter, not a big deal. But going forward, we do have events where we can't get snow removal, and the likelihood that some people will use Ponderosa is a reality. Second thing is, I can't control visitors. We have right now 63 seniors. We'll have 85 when our memory care opens. We have a lot of people visiting that are professional and family. I can coach them all day long to come in off of Forest Drive, but I can't obligate them to do that. I can certainly put up signs. We can send out memos. I can post website postings. So I'm pretty much here to say, what do you want me to do? I mean, if this is a legitimate issue that's becoming a public awareness issue that is questioning the conditional use permit that we all agreed upon, I'm open. And I'm here to have an active conversation with this governing body and the community. But like I told Scott, nobody's called me. My company knows nothing about this until the city attorney calls me and say, we got a problem. So I'll stop talking and start answering questions, but I am way open for whatever you guys want me to do.
Thank you. I'd say stand up there, and but if we have somebody else, they're going to take your spot. So
I'll go sit down.
we'll field a couple of questions here.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Oh.
Do you want to move?
Yeah, this would be an unscheduled public comment, so we'll have 3 minutes per speaker. All right.
My name is Ken Peterson.
Nope.
My name is Ken Peterson. I reside at 1608 Pine Avenue. I do have a question for Aspen representative, and that is, how long is it going to be before that front door is installed? So people can access from the front? Off of Forest.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. This is more of a comments only section. We take a,
Well, right at this time, there's only one access, and that is, if they don't go down Pine and Ponderosa, then they've got to go down the side of the building. But there is a door facing Forest Drive that's boarded, and I was just wondering, perhaps he could answer the question as to when that will be open so people can access from the front. And that's all I have.
thank you. Take a brief moment here, brief pause. Okay. So this is a public comment section. This forum right here is more for public comment, which I would encourage you all to make your comments after unscheduled public comment. We can have Doug, if you want to come back up and make another comment. Other option would be you guys could adjourn to the waiting area there. We could shut the door. You guys can have an open conversation there as well. But again, I would love to hear everybody's comments if they have any. Thank you. Is there anybody else? Sure.
Good evening. My name is M. Scott Moon. I've owned my home at 608 Ponderosa Street for 15 years. Thank you, Commissioners and City Administration staff, for the opportunity to speak tonight. Thank you, too, Mr. Clegg, for representing Aspen Creek tonight. As I work to find assisted living for my own elderly mother, I appreciate your staff's challenging work to provide safe housing for elders. I recognize the need for appropriately developed elder housing. While not in my original comments, I am bringing my concerns to this body instead of to your company, because my experience is I have leverage with the folks in front of me who represent me and have very little leverage over a company like yourself. There's very little time to restate the facts that were shared last night, although most of those facts remain. Aspen Creek is in violation of a conditional use permit that probably should never have been granted in the first place. The permit, and I quote, prohibits use that would violate the residential character of the neighborhood and/or generate heavy traffic in a predominantly residential neighborhood. Yet facility staff and vendors are doing just that. I'm glad you brought up life and safety, Mr. Clegg. Aspen Creek's growing staff continue to speed down Pine and Ponderosa in the morning, and by speed, I'm talking way in excess of the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit on Ponderosa. During the morning, during the lunch hour, and during the evening, whether construction's going on or not. Delivery trucks, including a 40-foot semi from Food Service America, makes a frequent trip down the street, and they're using the 2 residential roads that have no shoulders and no pedestrian sidewalks. I recently watched as a vehicle had to back up on Ponderosa to accommodate the wide turn the FSA truck had to make at Pine and Ponderosa. The CUP says, and again I'm quoting, the easement access to and from Ponderosa Street is primarily intended to provide emergency access and vendor deliveries. A one-way access off North Forest Drive is provided to minimize vehicle traffic off Ponderosa Street from employees and additional visitors. Now what we're hearing from Mr. Clegg is that that's what the permit says, but I have no authority to enforce that. I'm insisting, Mr. Clegg, that you mandate and enforce these terms clearly to your staff. I'm also asking the commissioners to consider Aspen's current track record and direct the city to enforce the terms of the CUP, and to consider Aspen's record as the company proceeds with a project that, in Aspen's own words, and I once more quote, is a massive remodel of our facility, including the expansion of our memory care facility coming in 2026. So the problems we have right now are just the tip of the iceberg. The solution,
If you want to wrap up, that's fine.
the solution to all of these problems is for Aspen Creek to acquire the undeveloped land to the north of their facility for the purpose of ingress and egress from forest. Thank you again for taking my comments tonight.
Thank you. Anybody else?
My name is Kit Hill, and I reside at 615 Ponderosa Street, which is right at the corner of the Ponderosa access to Aspen Creek. Someone made a comment about the conditional use permit. We were never notified of the conditional use permit, nor did we know that there was going to be a road built there until it was built. That was when we saw them out there building the road. That's when we got the notice of it. Had we known that they were intending to build a road, we would have certainly commented on it. While the volume may have decreased, it still continues. And we still have a concern that they have permanent access other than emergency use. I have no objection to their having an emergency use access. This makes sense. But any of the other traffic I don't think that should be appropriate. And I'm particularly concerned as they build additional units. And I believe that they should be required to have access from forest for any additional access if they're building additional structures there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you for listening to us. I have lived in the neighborhood longer than anybody else, and
Can I-
I'm sorry about the snow.
Can I get your name real quick?
Arliss Maskinnis. I live at 607 Westwood Court. And the traffic that has picked up off of Pine Street is ridiculous going down Ponderosa. When he was talking about emergency vehicles, I checked last year, there was over 170 some ambulance calls to that facility, which is an ambulance and usually a rescue truck. Now, that's okay, but if he's thinking that's only a few times, no, it's every other day, basically. There's his said with the snow removal, if we have heavy snow, that was their design flaw, not our fault. They had a huge parking lot opened up for everything to go on, and they decided to hook those two buildings together, knowing full well that it was going to decrease access to that. So they put in the north side and the south side. Now they're saying, well, snow removal. Yeah, what about? So now we're going to have 200 cars a day when they open up the other facility going down Pine and Ponderosa. The children cannot play out on the street anymore. People have little kids, used to be out there riding their bike, skateboarding, playing basketball. Last summer, it was like a morgue out there outside the daily traffic constant. And there's different shifts there that's not just changing out at 8 and 5. It's, there's staggered shifts for different people for about what's going on during the day between your cooks and your maids and your handymen and your deliveries and your med staffs and your entertainment, everybody there. So there's a lot of employees that go there. And that is not our fault that they misdiagnosed their new design and screwed it up, and now they want us to suffer for their flaw. And there's nothing wrong, in my opinion, to buy a chunk of property on the north side and put in a 100-foot road, buy a 100-foot strip down it, and put a road in that side, because that property's been bare forever. So I've moved here in '69. And until Aspen Creek developed it, it's been empty. So I'm pretty sure he'll be okay putting in a road right there. And let us have our neighborhood back because it is residential. And with that traffic, how much is it going to lower our property values when you go to sell it and people are looking at your house and they see a string of traffic all day? They're there for an hour and they're changing out shifts and delivery trucks, especially when they doubled the size of the facility here in 2026. So how do you explain it? Well, it's just, we don't live on a street. We live in a subdivision, residential subdivision. And that's how I feel about it, and I think they should go on the north side and leave us alone, let us have our neighborhood back.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Howard Hill, you heard from Kit, my wife. I think that there is a solution to this, and that is that there should be a locked gate at the back entrance to Aspen Creek that fire department and police have access to, such as there is at the gun club out here. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Shelley Peterson, and I live at 1608 Pine Avenue, and I just wanted to make a couple of comments. Number one, visitors don't have to come through our subdivision. I go and visit a lady there all the time, and I use the front entrance. Although it's a side entrance where the apartments are, it's not the front entrance. And so if the sign were taken down, I believe the sign's still there. Maybe it isn't. It isn't. Okay. Okay, then maybe visitors wouldn't go that way. And I don't think it's necessarily visitors that are going the back way. I think it's employees that are going the back way. We had an 18 wheeler almost drive over our lawn trying to get around the corner. So, and to address why we didn't come to him, he's a bit controversial. He's a bit, and so why would we go to him? We would come to the city and say, what can you do to help us? And I can't believe that he thinks there's only a few cars that go that way, because we have counted 30 in an hour. No, see, 21 in 1 hour, and 18 of them went to the facility. So it's not just a couple of cars, and it's all night long.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none? Oh, we have a, oh,
Yeah, I'm not jumping up, kind of low key.
I think we have a, oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure you guys can hear me, possibly, maybe not. I can talk louder. Number one, again, thank you all for being here a second time, hearing us.
I'm sorry, what was your name again?
Oh, yeah, there's that. Mary Doobie. I purchased and owned my home and a piece of property on Ponderosa 606, and I don't know what the adjoining lot formally is, in 1991, when I was a single parent. And that's me. I'd like to think, was it you, Kevin, that invited Mr. Clegg, or was it Mr. Bloom, the city attorney? You, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Mr. Clegg, thank you for being here as well. Part of being a good neighbor is introducing yourself and really truly looking to come up with some workable solutions to making your business what you want it to be as a businessman, and considering people who have lived there and raised their families there, and keeping it a neighborhood environment. So I would encourage you, if you really want to hear some of the comments, you could go back to our previous planning and zoning meeting. And Scott, I don't remember what that date was, but we were all here, the neighbors were all here, and we did give testimony. So if you are, Mr. Clegg, interested in hearing that, it is open to you as a business owner in the city of Kenai, to listen to some heartfelt testimony of why we were all here. And that's very open to you. I really, really appreciate Mr. Moon's comments at the last meeting. He is very well spoken, very thought out. I would totally get on board with him in being a representative for us all, although we all have our own voice, as do you. And I don't think it has to be controversial and blaming. I think it can be conversation of developing, because you did purchase an entity that you can't do anything about the past. And we're all here in the present, but we all certainly have input into how we move forward, making it work in the most conducive way to both your community in the housing units and the community in our homes. So please consider that as a business owner who is, I will leave it as a business, I'll just leave it as a business owner. So please think about that. I do have a comment for the city, and this is maybe not the best place to mention it, but I will say again, when you're looking at someone proposing things,
Go ahead and wrap up if you want.
it's just, you can't predict the future, none of us can. We don't have crystal balls. But what you can do, you can look at how far back the school is on Forest. You can look at how far back the churches are on Forest. You can look at how far back Aspen was originally built. And again, Mr. Clegg, that was not your doing. You just purchased it for your reasoning. But it does bring to point how important it is for planning and zoning to pay attention to, hey, this may be just a conditional use permit, but for new developments, what have we learned in the past so that we don't make the same mistakes? Maybe when we approve building neighborhoods, maybe they should have 2 double-car driveways. Maybe they should have sidewalks. So maybe they should be a little bit wider. And that you have control over moving forward. And I don't know which body does all of that. But I think we're all collectively part of a community that we care very, very much about. And I don't know, Mr. Clegg, if you live here or you don't, but we're a pretty tight-knit city, and we do look out for each other, and we do care about where we live. And please don't not take accountability and responsibility for what you have purchased, because we also have purchased, and this is a home to us. So please keep that in consideration and not try to diminish it by not taking accountability and responsibility for people that you're responsible for. And that's all I really want to say, is we all have a part in making this work. And we only have so much we can do. You're right. We're living with what we didn't have something to do with. So that's really it. That's all I have to say. And I thank everyone here tonight. So that's it.
Thank you. Was there anybody else who wanted to speak? Okay, I would invite Mr. Clegg back up if you want.
How grateful I am, seriously, to all of you. I am not an aggressive guy. I really am a pretty nice guy. So I'm open arms. I think if you talk to any of my employees, we kind of have what we call a little love affair going down there, and it's all appropriate. But we're here on a call. I'm not here on a business venture. I've been doing senior housing for 30 years. In fact, tomorrow night, I'm doing a red eye to get back with my dad, who's 86 years old, born in 1938, to place him in an assisted living facility and assign him to a hospice agent for his final adventure. So anybody that's been involved in our industry knows for a fact it's not a duty, it's a call. We love the seniors. We're honored to be here and serve the seniors. We're honored to have you as our neighbors. Absolutely. Big disappointment, and you're all groveling right now and say, I hate this guy, and I get it. And it's okay for you to feel that way. I'm going to point out a couple of things just so everybody's intelligently understanding what's happening. When we bought this facility, it had 4 buildings and 1 barn, and it was licensed for 80 senior citizens to live in. We converted 4 rooms that were previously designed to be rooms for seniors, and then were repurposed as a nursing center, an activity center, a laundry room, and an office for our executive director. This new combination is enabling us to take those 4 units and convert them back to their original intent. And then we are adding 15 units of memory care. It is the first in the entire peninsula, the only dedicated, specifically behaviorally managed senior citizen long-term care facility that specializes in Alzheimer's dementia. The staff is not going up. In fact, the reason we combined this building is we are reducing our staff by 20%. Do you know what it's like in the middle of the winter to cook food in a kitchen and then stick it on a trolley across a 6-inch iced parking lot to go from building to building to building? That's what we were left with. So we said, we can't do this any longer. It's high risk for everybody. I got a leadership team that's trying to dance between 4 buildings right now. And I came to the city before we even started this, and I said, we got to solve this problem. So we connected those buildings, we added a memory care, and we developed an enrichment center, a beauty salon, a gym for physical therapy, a performing arts center, a bistro center, a full complemented dining room. Do you think we did that for fun? No. We did it because we want to change the lives of the senior citizens that are living here. So the belief that we're going to have additional staff is wrong. The fact that you're being impacted right now because of the construction, Raw fact. Raw for me, raw for you. I can't stand it. We're working on it. So I'm going to give you a couple of solutions. And furthermore, we made 4 offers to the company for all the land north of us. They were bought out by a development company in Seattle. The dad passed away, and now it's owned by his son. Prima donna does not even begin to define this guy. We went over backwards. We were willing to pay 4 times the amount of the money to buy that dirt. Couldn't get it. Could not get it. So this is what we are going to do. First of all, I'm going to put a camera on at the end of Ponderosa where it comes into our facility. And we are going to give you guys access to it so that you can count the cars that are coming in to our facility by our staff. And I want to know about it because we're going to count it. And I'm going to find out exactly who is coming through there so we can regulate that. Second of all, there's nothing we can do about FSA and some of the trucks that are coming in here right now, you're not going to see them anymore. Those are construction trucks. We're delivering immense amount of materials and 18-wheelers, yada, yada, yada. FSA is a long-termer. There's no way we could design it. And you're right, the fire truck is another element on an emergency access that'll come. We have 3 weeks before we install our outside doors. But that does not mean that the building will be open for people to get into the building in those front doors. We just got our boilers on. We're mudding and taping. Next Monday, we do the texture, and then we go to finish work, tile, cabinetry, flooring, and decor. And those things are probably going to take us about 8 to 12 weeks. Best case scenario, and that's if we're just running on a wing and a prayer, as they say, Bon Jovi. That's a miracle if it happens. When that's over with, we're implementing our signage. So right now, we lost the winter fact. In fact, Peninsula Paving did the last paving job of their season on our project. And it wasn't cheap, and we begged, borrowed, pled, and paid to get that done. But we didn't have time to get our one-way signs in, or the do not enter signs, or you're not supposed to be coming here signs. Hold your breath, because we still got signs to install. I still have memos to get out to everybody that get a pattern. I hate to say, we all have habits, and I can influence my staff all day long, but until we get a rhythm, and I am done constructing this thing, and everybody is watched, asked, invited, re-invited, and that's true with our families and our professionals, it's going to take time. I'm just praying you guys will be patient with us and know we're here. I cannot lock that back gate. It's not going to work for the fire department, and they're not going to want a knockbox back there when they got 5 minutes to get to my facility and they got to take 5 minutes to undo a gate. It's not going to work. And we can talk to the fire marshal about that, but I seriously doubt he's going to say, give me a gate. And so I'm open for questions or suggestions or things that I didn't cover. But we're here. We're team players. We're in. We're all in. We want to honor the conditional use permit. We have every intent of doing that, but I don't think it's fair to judge us right now in the midst of construction. We're giving it all we got to get this done and to do it safely, and I got about 3 more months to get it done and get through this winter, and then I think we need to let the dust settle and see what happens. I am going to install a camera as soon as I can get it. I'm going to put one back there. I will send out more notices to our staff. We're doing that, and I'm going to start counting how many people come through there, and I know their cars. So trust me, we can get after our staff and say, don't use it. The snow, we managed it. We had to go through all that, and we know exactly where the snow's going. We had to plan that with the city. Your city planners came to us and said, you got to have areas to place your snow, to excavate it. I spent $6,000 in 1 month, actually in 1 week, when it snowed on us, when we had that big killer, 30-inch or 12-inch or whatever it was. We had a ton of snow. So we're prepared to do that. But that doesn't mean, again, that I can regulate that. If they're speeding, call the cops. I'll call the cops. Let's stick a cop with a radar right on your street. Let's bust those guys. I don't want them speeding on my property, and I don't want them speeding on yours. So let's get a cop out there. That's what they're here for. Let's stop the speeding. And maybe post a speeding sign, because I've driven that road a half a dozen times and I've never seen one. I've never seen a 20-mile-an-hour sign on Ponderosa or Pine. If there's one on there, I'd like to know where it's at, but I've never seen a sign in your subdivision that says what the speed limit is, and that would be a blessing for everybody. Well, I know, but we got a new adventure. I'll pay for it. We all do.
All right, can we
Well,
just leave it to comments only, please?
yeah, what I'm saying is I'm willing to pay for a sign if the city wants to put a sign up there that says no speeding, whatever. Kids, you got kid signs, you got them for your school. I'm happy to sponsor that. Whatever signs you guys want, entry only when they come off of Ponderosa that says this is for emergency delivery only, so that people that are coming through there, I'll get it made and we'll get it in the ground as soon as the frost is gone. In fact, I'll paint one and put one up there this next week on a 4x8 CDX, if that's what the city wants. But I think in all fairness, we got to get the project done, and you got to give us a chance to do what we said we're going to do. And we're working on it. We're working on it. But it is to a certain degree a little bit of controlled chaos over there. You guys should all come and smell the paint. I mean, it's neurotic, man. There is so much going on. I got people crawling on people right now trying to get that done, and we're trying to do it in a safe way. So I'm open for comments and suggestions from you guys too. Anything you want us to do, we're happy to go get it.
Commissioner Petty?
Thank you, sir, it seems like you came a long journey to be here, and we are so very thankful that that facility is in our community for our senior citizens that need those facilities. And thank you for your attitude of wanting to solve and create solutions for this situation. I graciously appreciate that, and I know that our community members are thankful for that as well. So thank you, sir.
Commissioner Woodard?
Are people allowed to use the roads on the sides of the buildings?
Yes, they're open and they're being actively used. I do know that when Scott, the city attorney, called me, I hung the phone up and I immediately sent an Amber Alert to all my leaders and said, today I want a notice out to our staff. I don't know if that's helped over the last few weeks or not, but I do know that when I get a camera up and we start seeing whose license plate is coming through that, I have a greater ability to influence my team and make sure that we control them. We have 48 employees. This is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week facility. Our shift changes are 3 times a day. That's 6 a.m., then we move up to 3 or 4, and then we move again in the evening. So there's 3 shift changes. And normally, the knock shift that was referred to in the evenings, there's only 4 staff members that change out. That's it. There's only 4 staff members that run that whole system there within that building confine. During the day, peak staff will be up to about 19 people working concurrently. And some of those are 9 to 5, which is our leadership team, and then that changes out. So I'm giving you some context on the number. If everybody was using that street, that's about the number of vehicles that would be making that trip for shift changes and getting access to our facility.
Okay, thank you. When I first saw that you tore all the trees out and put pavement alongside the buildings, I was a little disappointed, but I guess it was a good thing in the end, that it does give access to the back of the building.
Yeah.
As long as they use it.
Yeah, no, it's well said.
Any other comments?
I was just curious, through the chair, during your development and design phase, was there any consideration for the staffing increases or decreases for the added parking spaces and visitors and professionals that you talked about? So obviously you're expanding on what the footprint already was. So during that design and development, wouldn't you've had some staff or engineering input into what you wanted that to look like for traffic flow and impact studies?
Great question, and the answer is absolutely yes. We will have 24 stalls for visitors at the main entrance on Forest. And I believe we have 67 parking stalls for guests. And those are people that are actively coming, that are regularly coming, and our staff and professionals in the back. So we doubled our parking. And then we have overflow parking that's all gravel now. If you come back there in the back, love to have you come over. We'll even add some cookies and coffee for you. But if you come on over and go around the back, you can see where we excavated and removed an entire forest, and we gravelled it. It's pad ready and it's usable for overflow parking. We're probably getting about between 16 and 18 additional right now with subcontractors. So we do have some overflow parking there.
So then your main parking, the 67 that you referenced slots for, was going to be off of Forest and not in the back?
Yeah, it's all supposed to be off of Forest except for life and safety, which is your fire department, trash, which I believe is twice a week, and then FSA, which usually comes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So if they're making a short run, they'll do it to the front, but if they're in a larger vehicle, those side roads are not designed with the radiuses that meet the fire marshal standards, so we can't use those for larger 18-wheelers to get around.
Somebody had also made a suggestion about a gate or a implement to shield it. What about something as simple as like an automation, just like a push-button remote control like you would for a gate?
That could be done. I don't know if the fire marshal is going to want it again. That's a question for him. But I think more importantly, I don't know if your trash company is going to want that, and they're going to have a designated driver that's going to be the same guy every week, and or FSA, our food delivery systems. So that's something to be thought
You could design
about.
them with something with an intercom that says, hey, FSA, I'm here, open the gate, please, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it does create a situation for snow removal, though. So we get a snowstorm, and I got a lock gate out there. I personally wouldn't, I wouldn't endorse that, just for the use and the maintenance and just the overall. I mean, for me to get a snowplow out there at 4 a.m. and get that thing cleaned out in the midst of a snowstorm and then try to figure out how to get that gate open could be very complicated. And the fire marshal might be very irritated if he comes out and sees they pushed the snow and they left a 2-foot berm there in front of his gate.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking something more along the lines like a parking garage. It's not a locked gate, it's just something that's automated, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just a thought.
No, it's a great thought. I'm happy to consider it as long as we get all the players involved with that and see what that would look like.
Thank you for the input.
Yeah.
Any other comments, questions?
I really like your idea of posting the signs that it's going to be for EMS services and labeled the one-ways and the one-ways out. But I also noted that your facility is maintained by staff 24 hours, 7 days a week. And if we went with a gate and you have security monitoring that gate and they push an intercom, it's open, there wouldn't be much of a delay.
But I'm happy to visit about that. I'm not saying no. I am saying, though, that it wouldn't be my first choice. I would say that I would be willing to consider that if we can't resolve the issue. And that's probably what I'm trying to say mostly here, is that we're dealing with a short-term circumstance in the midst of construction with a tremendous amount of unregulated traffic. I mean, when I call people to deliver materials, do you know how many times I got to talk to their driver and say, I didn't tell you to go this way, and by the way, I need the materials over here and not over here? We're regularly policing people in and out of that construction project. And I'm going to say the same thing about our staff, too. It's been a little bit of a confusion for them because the doors, as noted, don't have doors on them right now. So happy to look at that, but I'd love for us to get through what we're working on right now and get this thing opened up and then see where it goes from there. I do believe that this is going to change dramatically in another 3 to 4 months once we're opened up and this traffic from our staff goes away.
Is the hope to continue to have Ponderosa an active access to the property?
No, it's never was intended to be an active access. It's for three things: emergency, trash removal, and for food delivery. That's it. Just for larger vehicles that can't make those turns out there, that's it. So we didn't plan to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Clegg. I appreciate your time here.
You betcha.
Appreciate you coming and speaking.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask Planning Director Buettner, I pass in a note here. What I was hoping to get is some sort of action item that we could kind of have to see as a resolution, or to make sure basically we're meeting public need here for a resolution. And I appreciate Mr. Clegg's willingness to hear what you guys have to say. But is there something we can do moving forward?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are two different ways we could do if we want a more action approval item. That could go on as early as the next agenda. If it's going to be for a resolution that would require a public hearing, the earliest would be March 12th's meeting, not to kick the can down the road any further than it has to be, but with the newspaper only publishing once a week and meeting that time frame. This past Monday, 2 days ago, was the notice for our upcoming P&Z meeting on the 26th, so that's the only reason we're pushing it all the way into March. If we did want to consider a resolution or some sort of public hearing, that would be the next step, potentially, for action, that is.
Okay, and then I guess on the administrative side, if we did want a public hearing, or would we ask would we vote on something like that? Or would we just say we want to, or if it was an actionable item?
You would just ask me to put it on the agenda so that it'd be published ahead of time. So yeah, if you direct me to, I'll put a public hearing on for the 12th. And that would be the formal.
I would bring that back to our group here. Do you think that's something that would be beneficial? Again, my concern is letting something like this not get resolved and wind up becoming a bigger issue than it is now. I think, especially if we gave it till the 12th, we'd have enough opportunity to see some sort of change being presented. Does anyone have an issue in that with my group? Commissioner Petty?
From what I was understanding, that this is the construction phase, and that they're still in the construction phase, and so some of the construction trucks that are coming in and out will continue to do so because of the process that's happening now. And that I think if I was going to make a suggestion, it would be after the grand opening, to come back and see how the traffic is happening, and if the cameras and the signs have been put forth. So if you could create an action item down that direction, I would think that would be more worthy of what we're trying to achieve, because what's happening right now, according to Mr. Clegg, I'm not sure I said your name correctly, dear sir, that this is a short-term interim and that things will resolve as the construction is completed.
Okay. Well, I think staying on top of this is obviously what one of my priorities would be. I think even a report of more information is coming on the 12th would be something that I'd like to hear. Just that we can keep that up on the keep it high on our priority listing.
Had to say this. We have a building permit. I cannot get a certificate of occupancy unless this body here, which is this guy right here, says green light. And that includes some of the things we've talked about tonight: proper signage, a camera. Some of the elements that we're looking to have accomplished here we're not done building this yet. I gotta get it done. And when it's done, all the elements that can be composed by Kevin to come out to the site and walk this with the fire marshal, city officials, if you guys all want to come to the opening and look at it, he's the guy that's got to sign my certificate of occupancy. Without a certificate of occupancy, I can't let seniors move in. I'm spending a lot of money for free. So could we at least get through that and give you guys the gun to come out to the project and make sure that it's got all the features that you're looking for to make sure this goes away?
Absolutely. Yep. Go ahead. We got two coming up here.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak one more. I know how the process is supposed to work, and we're going beyond the process. I can assure the chair and the rest of the commissioners that unless something actionable is put on the table that prevents the problem from settling down for a few months and then the staff returning to using Ponderosa and Pine throughout the summer and in the long term, we're going to be back. And I think there are a lot of folks that are not engaged with the process right now that can very easily be engaged. This is not going to go away. I can only speak for myself. I do not speak for the neighborhood. The problem is not the construction. We're all reasonable people and recognize that the construction folks have got to have access. It's not the construction contractors and it's not the FSA trucks that are doing 25, 35, 45 miles an hour down the road. It's the staff. And that is something that Aspen has leverage over. I do not, but and the city can enforce the conditional use permit. I also expect that Aspen Creek is going to be coming back for more conditional use permits or permits in the future. And I assure you that I will be paying attention and the other folks in this room are going to be paying attention. And a situation like what we have right now is not going to happen again. We were notified, but the language on the postcard that we were notified said that it was a conditional use permit for increased construction. It said nothing on the postcard about Ponderosa or Pine or changing road access. The postcard was misleading, so I let it slip by, and I think everyone else in the room let it slip by. I'm never going to do that again. When I get a postcard, I'm going to be looking up at the paperwork, and I'm going to see how does this affect me and how does this affect my community. If Aspen is back in here for additional conditional use permits, they're going to be facing some questions. Respectfully, we were asked earlier, why didn't the neighborhood come to Aspen Creek instead of coming to you? Aspen Creek did not come to us a year ago and say, here's our plan. Do you see anything wrong with this? Or how can we work with you to make this happen? I felt like the second conditional use permit that came in was kind of I don't want to say sneaky, but it was borderline sneaky backdoor way of getting access. And by the time of the rest of those of us on Ponderosa and Pine woke up to what was going on, it was too late, and we had people doing 40 miles an hour down our road at shift change. We didn't need to hear when shift change was. We know when shift change is. I can almost set my clock by it. I thank you again for hearing my additional comments.
I get we're off topic.
Am I on the understanding that they're going to, in 2026, add another big building there with another 60-some beds? Well, I've heard talk about them increasing the beds there. And if that's the case, then that's going to come in through the back parking lot because, again, because of their flawed design, when they put that ad on to add the two buildings as one, to make them one, it was their flaw of leaving 10 feet between the building and the property line. Again, their fault, their bad design, not ours. We should not have to pay for this. And on top of that, it might even lower the value of our houses because who's going to want to buy a house if they see cars go by? You're trying to sell your house and there's always this much traffic? Who's going to want to have their kids raised there? It's going to devalue our property. It's going to knock off tens of thousands of dollars because of the traffic. and he doesn't care about our loss. All he's worried about is getting his precious building going. Again, faulty flaw.
Thank you. Okay. We have an option here. We could take a quick break if we want to. There's certain people that want to discuss this further. We can let them exit into. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming. If you wanted to continue your conversation in the lobby, you're welcome to do that. We're going to continue forward. So E, we have no consideration of plats, which moves us to public hearings. We have Resolution PZ 2025-04, granting a conditional use permit for off-street parking on the property described as Tract 1 Frontage Road subdivision, located at approximately mile 11.4 Kenai Spur Highway within the Central Mixed Use Zoning District. Is there a motion to approve Resolution PZ 2025-04?
I move to pass Resolution PZ 2025-04, granting a conditional use permit.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Very good. Director Bean, can we have the staff report, please?
All right, bear with me. It seems complicated, but I promise it's really not. So as a condition of potential purchase, there's a potential new buyer for the Bow Bar down there near, is it Paradiso's? Is that how you say it? Okay. I was trying to say Paradiso's. That's not it. As a part of that, based on the fact that it's a restaurant drinking establishment, per square footage, they need to have one parking space per 200 square feet. So it comes up to about 16 parking spots that they need. They don't have that on their actual lot. In fact, basically that building would never be built today, just because it doesn't have the setbacks and everything, which is no harm, no foul. And they're not increasing a non-conforming use. So as long as the building itself, the footprint doesn't change, it can continue on even with a new owner, as long as they don't try to put a patio or something, for instance. That said, they do need to have appropriate parking. It does not necessarily have to be on site. It has to be within 300 feet. So they approach the city. We do have some public spots that are along frontage road, right there, kind of right in front of Paradiso's. They're not going to be putting up signs of Bow parking only or anything. They are just using it to meet their requirements. Generally, their higher volume hours are going to be after most of those other public businesses have kind of adjourned. They're requesting to use 16 of them for their establishment towards their total, and there are 63 total, so there'd be 47 unencumbered. And like I said, they would not be using them all the time. They're not reserving them in any way. They want to be allowed to use them so that they could remain a business here in town. But from what I've heard, Bow Bar's been around for a number of decades, and they really just want to continue operation under new ownership and new management.
Thank you, Director Butner. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak to Resolution PZ 2025-04? Oh, we've got an applicant presentation, sorry. Sorry. Anything else you want to add onto that? Okay, if you got something to say, I gotta get you up the front. And just push it once.
Okay.
There you go.
Do I need to state my name and where I live? Okay. I'm Kelsey Meyer. I don't live in Kenai, but we're trying to acquire the 502 Main Street. It's pretty much been functioning as is with no parking for however many years. I think more years than I've been alive. But acquiring it, we're just trying to solve the problem so that we don't keep kind of progressing with no solution. We tried to get a parking agreement between neighbors. We'll see. I know Karen's, sorry. Karen's been working on it. But the property, when people bought it, they already have a parking agreement set up, so they're not sure if they can sign something. So we're just looking for a solution to all of our issues, I guess, so we can close.
Very good. Commissioner Fikes?
Just to clarify, so if you do get this from the city, you don't have to move forward with getting agreements from your neighbors, correct?
Preferably, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds ideal.
Especially because if those businesses ever sell, we're kind of in a situation.
Thank you very much. And I don't think we see any other public comment. Okay. Seeing no one else wishing to speak, we can get back to the commission. Any further discussion from the commission? Commissioner May.
Through the chair, sir, is that 300 feet away from that space, or is it a bit further?
The edge of the public parking is, from the edge of their parcel to the edge of the parking is
Okay.
a little under 300 feet, so
Great.
it meets the
Okay.
requirements.
Thank you.
I believe you said this, but there is nothing that is saying that is designated only to them. Okay.
That is correct. They just want to be able to count them to meet their requirements per code.
No further discussion. We'll call for a vote.
Commissioner Fikes?
Yes.
Commissioner Woodard?
Yes.
Commissioner Ersley?
Yes.
Commissioner Petty?
Yes.
Chair Halstead?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, please note there's a 15-day period that an aggrieved party can file an appeal with the clerk's office. And we move to item G, unfinished business. We have none. Going to new business, we have none. And reports. Planning Director Buhner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Make this short and sweet. Just to put on the record, we did receive a signed petition from the community regarding Aspen Creek, so I just want to enter that into the record. And this would be presented as part of the public hearing if we do move forward with that. And then I just want to draw your attention down to item O, informational items. The contractor that's working with the borough for Safe Streets for All wants to do a joint work session with council. So this will be on April 16th at 5, just before council meeting. So everyone here is invited to join. This plan will make the city eligible for potential US DOT federal grant dollars down the way. There is no commitment that we have spent any money or anything. It just opens that door should we choose to go through it. And so it's definitely a passion project that I found out about. But my background is in transportation planning, and so I just really want to hammer home the benefits that the city could recognize by joining this plan.
Thank you. I have no additional reporting. Kenai Borough Planning, Commissioner Fikes, may I have your report, please?
Yes, so we had a meeting on January 27th since we last met. And let's see, we had an ordinance authorizing the acquisition of 80 acres of real property located in Seward from the Land Trust Investment Fund. And there was a purchase and the mayor authorized it, and it was an agreement between the mayor and the State of Alaska Mental Health Trust Authority. And so that was ultimately approved. That was in the Blueberry Hill area in Seward. So they're purchasing it from the State of Alaska out of mental health funds into the city. So that was a win-win for everybody. And then we had a ordinance authorizing the disposal of real property in Kenai necessary to resolve a title matter. And there was a Department of Interior defaulted, had sold at a tax auction to a private party. And so there was some basically cleanup that had to be done, clerical administrative errors from way back. So it was ultimately approved and authorized. And that moved us into another one to amend our Kenai Borough Code, Chapter 21.20, relating to hearings and appeals. And so, again, that was also to help clarify those who want to come in and file an appeal, what that looks like, how to do it. And they were going to have a hearing officer, may dismiss if there's no findings were met or incomplete application during the required timeline. So there's some language change to give it a little bit more teeth so that we're not faced at the time of a hearing with improper, incomplete packets and that kind of thing, even during an appeal process. And so that was passed. The plat committee had 3 plats, 2 were passed on consent and 1 was heard and passed. And the director had some comments. There was a landslide in the Fritz Creek area. And so they were just talking about flooding and impacts in Happy Valley. And then there was talk about a water-dependent fencing in a 50-foot habitat zone and its uses, if it's for bank erosion, yes, if it's for blocking the view, no. And so there was some discussion on what that might look like. And then there was a comment by one of the commissioners, unfortunately, there was a small child that died in a car accident in the Anchor Point community, and I'm sure we all can relate in a small community what that kind of impact has. So it was very sad to hear that. And then we met just this last Monday, and that meeting was pretty short and sweet. We had 2 items. We had a building setback in the Sterling area, and that one was passed, no conflicts or issues. And that was a literally 2.4 inches in a 20-foot building setback. And then there was another building setback encroachment, and this one was 2 inches within the 20-foot building setback. And so, again, they didn't impact any neighbors, they didn't impact any line of sight. So they had a very thorough packet and made it very easy to process and go through. So my hat's off to administration and staff that works on these, brings them forward to the commission and makes it easy to review and ultimately approve. And so then we had additional director's comments, and that was the new and upcoming gravel code, and it's going to be reviewed at our next meeting at 5:30. And so that one is going to be, I think, a really interesting look at what that's going to take place. Having all the input from the community, from the actual operators in that industry, and the city coming together along with the legal teams collectively and to put it down to pen to paper and get it all approved. So that's the final product. So everybody's been greatly anticipating that, and it's going to give us a chance to work with staff as well to see what that means for any gravel codes coming forward. How are we going to be able to apply those codes? So other than that, that was all we had.
Thank you, Commissioner Fix. City Council Liaison, Councilmember Askin, may we have your report, please?
Sure. Thank you. So the, excuse me, the meeting was held on February 5th at 6 o'clock, and we had an annual review of the City of Kenai permanent funds. And also Samantha Springer gave an annual report for the Chamber of Commerce. We amended the Kenai approved amendment of the Kenai Municipal Code to allow airports as a principal permitted use in the airport light industrial zone. So we changed the land use table. And then the rest of the stuff that we approved was designation of the investment and allocation plan for the city's permanent funds and establishing benchmarks to measure performance for calendar year 2025. We authorized a contract award for the 2025 Parks and Recreation Master Plan. I think that's about $75,000, a little less. We authorized the use of the Fleet Replacement Fund and purchased 1 F-150 responder vehicle. And when we also approved purchasing 2 Ford trucks for use by the Water and Sewer Department, and the replacement of 2 Ford Transit vans. And then we redirected public safety capital funds to complete the emergency services facility assessment and adopted a contract for the 2025 emergency services facility programming and assessment. And then after that, there was a few renewals of liquor license for Car Gutstein and Three Bears. And then we increased revenues in the general fund for the police department to purchase ballistic vests and amended the Kenai Municipal Code 23 for personnel regulations regarding probation, definitions, probationary periods, et cetera. It was more or less the housekeeping for our ordinance. And the Airport Commission 2025 work plan was approved, as well as they scheduled a joint work session with Planning and Zoning for presentation of the draft SS4A Comprehensive Safety Action Plan. And that's it. Any questions?
Thank you, Councilmember Askin. It's great to see you.
Thanks. You too.
All right, additional public comment? No one online? Okay. Next meeting attendance notification is going to be February 26th. Is anyone planning on being absent or attending remotely?
I'll be absent. I'll be at school.
Okay. All right. Commission's comments and questions. Commissioner Ersley.
No comment at this time.
Commissioner Woodard.
I'm good.
Commissioner Petty.
Thank you. I'm so glad that there was such robust conversation and work towards a resolution for the challenge that was over there by Aspen Creek, and look forward to the completion of that construction so that things can get back to normal. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Fikes?
All good.
Okay. Yeah, I will agree that Aspen Creek will be nice to put that one to bed. I appreciate you guys being patient with me on going a little unorthodox on our time on getting questions, comments on. Personally, my opinion on that is I'd rather spend a couple more minutes on letting people feel better. I mean, that's what we're here for, is to get their needs met. So thanks for bearing with me on that. And pending items, we have none. No further business. We are adjourned.